Assalamualaikum. My name is Haziqah binti Abdul Halik, 262335. Today I want to talk about traditional economic measure. Economic development has traditionally meant achieving sustained rates of growth of income per capita to enable a nation to expand its output at a rate faster than the growth rate of its population. Levels and rate of growth of real per capita gross national income (GNI). Development strategies have therefore usually focused on rapid industrialization, often at the expense of agriculture and rural development. Problems of poverty, discrimination, unemployment, and income distribution were of secondary importance to getting the growth job done. Indeed, the emphasis is often on increased output measured by gross domestic product, GDP.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Li Ho Yao, and my metric number is 261386. So I'll be continuing to talk about the new economic view of development. In the 1950s and also 1960s, a lot of developing nations are reaching their economic growth target in terms of the traditional economic measures like GNI, but the levels of living of people remain most part unchanged, which means that there's still widespread absolute poverty, increasingly inequitable income distribution, and also rising unemployment. So therefore, in 1970s, economic development was being redefined in terms of being the reduction or elimination of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Redistribution from growth become a common slogan. And the reason behind this change is, like we said, there's no improvement in employment equality and the real incomes of the bottom 40% of the population, while the growth PCI show high rates in these developing nations. So the listeners, he said that if these central problems ever persist, it would be very strange to call the result development even if the per capita income double. The situation turned worse in 1980s and also 1990s because the GNI growth rate turned negative for a lot of these developing nations, and therefore the governments facing high foreign debt, they were forced to cut back on their already limited social and economic programs. But development is not just merely an question of economics or one quantitative measures of maybe income, employment, and all those. Development must be conceived as a multi-dimensional process involving major changes in social structures, popular attitudes, and national institutions, as well as the acceleration of economic growth, the reduction of inequality, and also the eradication of poverty. So development must represent the whole gamut of change. It means moving away from condition of life that is unsatisfactory towards one that is regarded as materially and spiritually better. To better understand the goals of economic development, we can take it from Amar's capability approach. So from his approach, he argues that what truly matters is the capability to function. He says that things like poverty cannot be properly measured by income or even by utility as conventionally understood. What truly matters is not the things that a person has or the feelings that these things provide, but what a person is or can be and does or can do with all these things. Things like commodities and given characteristic that they come to possess or control. Similarly, real income levels or even the levels of consumption of the commodities cannot be enough of a measure of well-being. One may have a lot of commodities and possession, but these are of little value if they are not truly what the consumers desire. So he did list down like 5 sources of disparity between real measured incomes and actual advantages to people of different backgrounds, as listed on the slide and also in the textbook. But not to be confused when we say what the consumers truly desire is not the same as what gives pleasure to a person. If we identify utility with happiness in a particular way, then very poor people could also be having very high utility. So therefore, the functioning of a person is an achievement. It is what the person succeeds in doing with the commodities and characteristics that they command. So for example, bicycling has to be distinguished from possessing a bike, and it also has to be distinguished from the happiness generated from bicycling. Therefore, a functioning is thus different from both having goods and also having utility. So therefore, in short, capabilities in the capability to function in Amartya Sen's approach is the meaning is the freedom that a person has in terms of the choice of functionings given his or her personal features and his or command over commodities. So, in conclusion, to Amartya sense, human well-being means being well in the basic sense of being healthy, well-nourished, well-clothed, literate, and also long-lived. But more broadly, is being able to take part in the life of the community, being mobile, and having freedom of choice in what one can become and can do.
Hi everyone, my name is Suri and now I am going to continue with development and happiness. What is happiness mean? Happiness is part of human well-being and greater happiness may in itself expand an individual's capability to function. Economics has explored the empirical relationship across countries and over time between subjectively reported satisfaction and happiness and the factors such as income. In figure 1.2, it shows the income and happiness comparing among the country. The average level of happiness increased with the country average income, roughly 4 times the percentage of people report that they are not happy. As you can see in the figure that shows that Bangladesh, Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, and so on, the countries that people that are not happy with their current situations, but the relationship is seen only up to an average income estimate $10,000 to $20,000 per capita, such as Portugal, New Zealand, Singapore, and so on. At this level, majority of the citizens are usually relatively well-nourished, healthy, and educated. Another example is the fraction not happy and satisfied on average 4.5 times as great in Zimbabwe as in Indonesia. Despite somewhat higher income in Zimbabwe, the leader in developing nations hope that their society can gain the benefit of development without losing the traditional strength such as the moral value and trust in others. Sometimes we may call it as the social capital. Now you can see there is a man in the picture who called Richard Layard. He is a labor economist, has worked for most of his life on how to reduce unemployment and inequality. Study shows that financial security is only one factor affecting happiness. And Richard Layard has identified seven factors affect average national happiness. First is personal relationship, financial situations, whether you have a strong financials or a weak financials, it may also affect your happiness. And number 3 is work, community and friends, health conditions, and sex, personal freedom, and the last one is personal value. In particular, aside from not being poor, the evidence says people are happier when they are not unemployment or not divorced or separate, and also have a high trust of others in society, as well as enjoy high government quality with democratic freedom and religious faith. Last, informed by Sam work, happiness is not the only dimensions of subjective well-being of importance. It includes the capabilities such as health, education, and freedom. What people say make them happy and satisfied as just one among the functioning is the best only for a rough guide to what people value in life. This work adds new perspective to multidimensional meaning of the development. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good evening to my dearest friend and also my loving lecturers. So now we move to the next part, which is the three cores of development. Which is the first one is sustenance, the second one is self-esteem, and third one is freedom. So what is sustenance? Sustenance means that the basic goods and services such as food, clothing, and also shelter. So as we know that sustenance means that the ability of person to meet the basic need. The second one is self-esteem. Self-esteem means that the feelings of worthiness that a society enjoy when it social, political, and also economic system. So self-esteem we can refer that to be a person. So the third one is about we want to freedom. So a situation means that a situation in which a society has at its disposable a variety of alternatives from which to satisfy its want and individual enjoy their choices according to their preference. To obtain a better life, we have the three objectives of development, which is the first one is to increase the ability and widen the distributions of basic life sustaining goods such as food, shelter, health, and also protection. The second one is to raise levels of living, which is we want to everyone have a high income, the provisions of more job, better education, and also greater attention to cultures and also human value. The third one is to expand the range of economics and social choices, which is one available to individual and nations by freeing them from servitude and dependence, not only in relation to others people and nation state, but also to the forces of ignorance and human misery. Right, so we move to the next part, which is the central roles of women. Right now, women's playing the central roles in the development drama, which is they are also modified in the health and educations and in freedom in all form. So women right now is transmit value to the next generation, and as we know that children need a better health and education, and studies from around the developing world confirm that mothers tend to spend a significant higher fractions of income under their control for the benefit for their children than father do. So here we can conclude that the central roles of women is being categorized consign farmers, entrepreneurship, and also as educators.
In September 2000, 189 member countries of the United Nations at that time adopted 8 Millennium Development Goal, or known as MDG. They committing themselves to making substantial progress toward the eradication of poverty and achieving other human development goals. It is the strongest yet of the international commitment to ending global poverty. The goals are assigned specific target to be achieved by 2015. As reported by the United Nations Development Programme, or UNDP, if current trends continue, not all the target will be achieved and great regional disparity is unclear when global averages are reported. They report that East Asia has done far better than Sub-Saharan Africa. A set of 8 goals adopted by United Nations in 2000. I will explain to you the first 4 goals. The first goal is to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. The second goal is achieve universal primary education. The third goal is promote gender equality and empowerment. Reduce child mortality will be the fourth goals. We start with the first one, which is eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. The two targets for these goals are to reduce half of the proportion of people living on less than $1 a day and to reduce by half the proportion of people who suffer from hunger. They call these goals as halving poverty. The indicators are proportion of people below $1 a day and poverty gap ratio. It is also marked by prevalence of underweight children for under 5 years of age and the proportion of population below minimum level of dietary energy consumption. To achieve these targets requires that progress be made on the other goals as well. Next, the second goal is to achieve universal primary education. The target is to ensure that by 2015, children everywhere, all boys and girls, are complete a full course of primary schooling. The indicators that have been used in the net enrollment ratio in primary education and proportion of people starting grade 1 who reach grade 5. They also use the literacy rate of 15 until 24 years old. The third goal is to promote gender equality and empower women. The target is to eliminate gender disparity in primary and secondary education, preferably by 2005, and to all level education no later than 2015. There are several indicators for the third goal, such as ratio of the girls to boys in primary, secondary and tertiary education, the ratio of literate females to males of 15 until 24 years old. They also indicate the share of women in wage employment in the non-agricultural sector and proportion of seats held by women in the national parliament. Fourth goal is to reduce child mortality. They want to reduce by 3/4 between 1990 and 2015 the mortality rate among children. So the indicators for the goals are under 5 mortality rate, instant mortality rate, and proportion of 1-year-old children immune against measles. Here are the first 4 goals. My team member will continue the other 4 goals.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Norzilah binti Motar and my metric number is 264177, and I'm going to continue on the task and explaining on the millennial goals from 5 to 8. Next, I'm going to talk about the Millennial Development Goal, and this is the 5th one, which is to improve maternal health. So what this target is that we need to reduce by 3/4 the maternal mortality ratio. The 6th one is to combat HIV and other diseases. Okay, so what they are trying to target is to help and begin to reverse the spread of HIV and AIDS. And next is halt and begin to reverse other incisive diseases such as malaria and other major diseases that can cause widespread. Next, I'm going to talk about the 7th Millennial Development Goal, which is ensuring environmental sustainability. Okay, what they are trying to target is that first thing first is we're going to integrate a principle of sustainable development into country policies and programs which to reduce the environmental loss of resources. Next, they are trying to reduce by half of the proportion of people without access of safe drinking water. The third one is to achieve significant improvement in lives at least 100 million slum dwellers by 2020. Okay, this goal is important because it is essential for securing an escape from poverty. This is immediately can be seen by the 2 targets, which is reducing half of the proportion of people without access of safe drinking water and the significant improvement in lives at least 100 million slum dwellers. But more in general, that this is because without protecting our own environment, there is very little chance for these people who are unfortunate to escape from poverty, which can be sad and which can lead to a more permanent damage. Okay, next I'm going to talk about the 8th one, which is develop a goal partnership for development. Okay, develop for the first goal. The first goal is to further and open rule-based, predictable, non-discriminatory trading and financial system. Includes committed to goods, governance, development and poverty reduction, both nationally and internationally. Okay, the next target is to address the special needs of least developed countries. Includes tariff quota, free access for least developed countries export, enhanced programs of debt relief for heavily indebted poor countries, HIPCS, and the cancellation of official bilateral debt and a more generous official development assistance for countries committed to poverty reduction of new technologies, especially information and communication. Okay, the third target is to address the special needs of landlocked countries and small islands developing states. The fourth one is to deal comprehensively with the debt problems developing countries through national and international measures in order to make debt sustainable in the long term. The fifth one is to incorporate with developing countries to develop and implement strategies for decent and productive for youth. And in cooperation with pharmaceutical companies, provide access to affordable essential drugs in developing countries. Plus, there's also in cooperation with the private sector to make available benefits. Thank you.